She thought he rescued her, until she found the file with her name on it. Elena believed Lucien had fallen for her the night he found her crying in the rain. But hidden inside his estate was a folder filled with her debts, routines, weaknesses, and a psychological profile explaining exactly how to gain her trust. The man who saved her may have been studying her long before they ever met. Picture this. The rain is dumping on this busted parking lot, and Elena thinks she hit peak rock bottom after her toxic ex just clowned her poverty. Spoiler alert, she is dead wrong. Rock bottom is the exact second Lucien Moretti, an East Coast Mafia boss, looking like a walking red flag in a custom charcoal suit, locks eyes with her. Stick with me, because you and I are going to unpack this absolute train wreck together. Look, life lesson here. Sometimes the universe breaks your normal life just to hand you an empire. Inside Save Mart, Elena is literally counting pennies in the cereal aisle like she is stuck in the 1800s. She is 26 years old, ignoring rent warnings she cannot afford, and buying cardboard cornflakes because the real brand costs $2 extra. Her hands are straight up shaking, and it is not the cold. It is that bone-deep burnout from pulling double shifts at a cafe that pays literal peanuts, where her tips do not even cover the bus home. Honestly, the worst part of being broke is not some cinematic drama. It is just a soul-crushing loop. Wake up, fake a smile for customers who ignore you, eat cheap noodles, and freeze in a busted apartment. Listen, you cannot bloom if your soil is toxic, and Elena has zero energy left to even dream. Suddenly, she turns the corner by the tomatoes, and her whole body freezes. Boom. There's Grayson Vale, her ex, standing 20 feet away, 6'2" of trust fund perfection, in a coat costing her whole yearly salary. He has his arm wrapped around this blonde yacht club girl, dripping in expensive diamonds. Elena feels her stomach drop so fast, she nearly throws up right on the dirty floor. She tries to dip, trying to stealth back into the cereal aisle before he spots her. But nope, it is way too late. Grayson calls out her name, echoing across the produce section, with that fake smug surprise. Like, bro, we all know you saw her first. Every survival instinct is screaming at Elena to run, but she turns around anyway, forcing the most painful, awkward smile ever. Grayson struts over with the pure confidence of a rich kid who has never heard the word no in his life. He is dragging his shiny new fiancée along just to flex on his ex. He smirks, scanning Elena's thrift store jeans, her beat-up shoes, and that safety pin holding her cheap jacket together. The lesson today? Never let a toxic ex see you sweat. The way this dude says she looks the exact same is a straight-up insult. Elena grips her plastic basket so hard her knuckles turn white. She shoots back that some things change and some do not. Grayson pulls his new girl closer, his smile turning super wicked. He introduces Victoria Ashford, his fiancée, and casually drops that he and Elena only dated for a while. Bro, it was 3 whole years. Victoria holds out a perfectly manicured hand with that empty smile rich people master at birth. Elena shakes it, feeling her own rough, coffee-burned fingers scrape against Victoria's flawless skin. It is humiliating, but listen, hard work scars just prove you are a survivor in a world that hands you nothing. Elena forces out a hollow congratulations, and Victoria beams, flashing a huge diamond ring like it is a weapon. Victoria will not stop yapping about how magical the wedding will be. Then Grayson chimes in to flex about their 500 guests, and his eyes are just glued to Elena. He is looking at her with this sick satisfaction, pretending to be pity. He even brags that it is catered by that fancy French place they could never afford back when they were together. Boom. That is the fatal strike. Elena feels her fake smile physically cracking her face. Now, you and I both know the smartest thing to do when toxic people try to break you is to just walk away. But Grayson is not done. He actually has the absolute nerve to invite her to the engagement party. Victoria looks super uncomfortable, but Grayson talks right over her, like she is an NPC. He is laser-focused on Elena, treating her pain like his personal video game. Elena feels something inside her chest literally snap in half. It is that last tiny shred of pride, the illusion that she is totally fine and over the breakup. Hearing this guy brag about his perfect new life just completely guts her. She tries to play it cool, telling him she is way too busy to go. But Grayson smirks like a total villain. He asks what she could possibly be busy with, totally mocking her minimum wage cafe job. Victoria is standing there squirming, finally realizing this is not a friendly chat. It is an absolute slaughter. But Grayson leans in close, dropping his voice. Remember this, folks' true colors always show when someone gets power over you. He calls her out right there, saying she is just embarrassed to be completely broke and buying cheap cereal in a dirty discount store. While he leveled up, Elena is straight up suffocating. Grayson hits her with the ultimate low blow, bringing up her old dream of becoming a writer. He reminds her how he told her dreams are only for rich who can afford to fail, and gloats about being right. Pure evil, honestly. Elena's eyes are burning, but she refuses to let a single tear drop in front of this clown. Grayson drops the party details for 7 p.m. on Saturday, telling her to come see what real success looks like. Then he struts away, leaving Elena completely shattered. Life lesson check: do not ever let a miserable person dictate your self-worth. She somehow survives the checkout line, paying with literal coins while the cashier judges her hard. She steps out into the parking lot, and of course, it is pouring freezing, miserable November rain. Elena fumbles with her car keys, totally blinded by tears, and shaking so bad she cannot even unlock her door. And then she sees it. Her front tire is completely flat. She stares at her rusty 15-year-old car in the pouring rain, and her spirit just shatters. She survived the brutal breakup and getting evicted, but getting stranded in the rain with cheap groceries, while her ex's cruel words ring in her ears. That is the breaking point. She slides down the car door and bawls into her hands. Look, sometimes you have to let yourself break entirely so you can be rebuilt into something stronger. She is crying so hard she does not hear a car pull up. Suddenly, this super deep, dangerous voice points out that she is bleeding. She looks up, and there is a man standing there who completely breaks reality. This guy absolutely does not belong in a busted grocery parking lot. He is over 6 feet tall, rocking a custom charcoal suit that screams unhinged wealth. He has that sharp face you only see on dangerous mobsters in movies. His eyes are pitch black, staring at Elena, like she is a puzzle he is about to crack. Elena croaks out that she is fine, wiping her eyes, but then realizes he is totally right. Her hand is sliced open and bleeding. The guy hits her with a cold, hard truth, pointing out she is definitely not fine sitting hurt in the rain. Listen closely, because acknowledging you need help is the first step out of the mud. Elena scoffs, forces herself to stand up, and sarcastically thanks him. Stick around, guys, because you and I are about to see where the real revenge begins. Picture this. The parking lot literally tilts sideways. Elena does not even realize she is fully passing out until these strong hands catch her mid-air. The guy looks at her and asks when she last ate. His voice has this edge of pure anger, but not at her. Elena tries to pull away, but her legs are complete jelly. The guy just reads her like an open book, malnourished, in shock, bleeding. He demands to know when she last had a real meal. Look, you and I have probably both been in a spot where we thought we were fine while our world was burning down. The lesson here is simple. Sometimes you have to completely collapse before you let someone remind you that you actually matter. Elena is just staring at this gorgeous stranger in the pouring rain, totally shell-shocked. She whispers that she had toast yesterday. This dude's jaw clenches so hard it could snap steel. Then, total mafia boss move, he just flicks his hand. 2 massive guys in dark suits literally spawn out of the rain. They look like they could snap a tree in half. One of them immediately grabs her groceries. Elena's survival instincts go absolutely crazy. She yanks her arm back, asking who he even is. He drops his name, Lucien Moretti, like it should echo in her bones. He says she is getting in his car right now. She thinks he is an absolute psycho or a serial killer. Here is a solid life lesson. Always listen to your gut, but do not let your pride stop you from accepting help when you are literally starving in a puddle. Lucien just gives this wild, dangerous half-smile. A kidnapper? Not even close. He steps in, and his gaze totally paralyzes her. Then he drops the craziest bombshell. He watched her horrible ex absolutely destroy her in the grocery store. He saw Grayson cut her down and watched Elena just take it. Why? Because she has been conditioned to think she deserves that garbage. Lucien tells her she is one bad day away from entirely breaking. He gives her a real choice: stay in the freezing rain with a flat tire, or get in his car and let someone actually treat her right for one single night. The life lesson here is massive. You never have to accept the toxic treatment people train you to expect. You always have a choice to walk away from the cold. Every rational thought tells her to run, but her ex's cruel voice is still echoing in her mind. Grayson's shiny new engagement ring is still flashing in her memory, and her flat tire is practically laughing at her. But this gorgeous, clearly dangerous stranger is looking at her like she is actually worth something. She whispers, "One night." Lucien looks so relieved. He holds out his hand, and Elena notices the expensive watch and the subtle scars on his knuckles. Yeah, this guy definitely knows how to throw a punch. She takes his hand, and they get into this insanely luxurious black sedan that probably costs more than her whole life. The doors shut with that heavy vault sound. We have to pause here. The takeaway? Sometimes taking a blind leap of faith is the only way to rewrite your broken story. She is sitting in the plush leather, voice trembling, and asks where on earth they are going. Lucien is already firing off texts. He tells her they are going to his place to get her food and medical care before she completely passes out. She tries to act tough, claiming she did not faint, but he completely calls her bluff. Then the vibe shifts. He pockets Hill's phone and demands to know about the guy who made her cry. His voice gets so icy and dark, Elena suddenly remembers she is rolling with a guy who probably speaks fluent violence. She admits her ex is Grayson Vale. They dated for 3 years before he dumped her for someone quote-unquote better. Someone richer, with better prospects. The life lesson is crucial. True value is never measured by a fancy pedigree, and the right people will see your worth immediately. Lucien just repeats the word better, like it physically makes him sick. Elena explains that her ex literally invited her to his engagement party just to flex on her and watch her suffer. Lucien goes totally quiet, which is honestly the scariest part. He softly demands the ex's full name. The second she says Grayson Alexander Vale, the absolute boss mode activates. Lucien dials his guy Marco and orders a complete background check on Grayson. He wants the financials, the dirty secrets, the weaknesses, everything on his desk by morning. Elena is freaking out, asking what he is doing since he does not even know her. Lucien calmly says he is making sure nobody ever hurts her again. Listen to this life lesson. When someone tries to break your spirit for fun, let them go, because karma always comes back around. Sometimes riding in a tinted sedan. They pull up to this massive glass skyscraper. This building screams pure wealth. Private elevators, doormen, the works. Lucien leads her into a penthouse that literally looks like a modern art museum. Floor-to-ceiling windows, insane furniture, just millions of dollars casually hanging on the walls. He sits her down on this plush leather sofa, grabs a first aid kit, and literally kneels in front of her. He starts cleaning her bleeding hand with absolute precision. She whispers that he is really good at it. His eyes flick up, and he drops this chiseled line, saying people in his life have a tendency to get hurt. Here is an important life lesson to remember. Real strength is not just about power or money. It is about being willing to get down on your knees to help heal someone else's pain. This dark, dangerous kingpin is treating her like absolute royalty. She asks what he does for a living. Lucien pours them some insanely expensive amber liquor and gives the most classic mafia answer ever. Imports, exports, investments. He says he solves problems. Yeah, we all know what that means. He sits super close to her, commanding her to tell him the raw, unedited truth about her life. And honestly, she just breaks down and spills everything. She talks about growing up dirt poor, getting a scholarship, and how Grayson totally manipulated her. He convinced her that her writing dreams were trash and that she should just be grateful. He even looked at her. Check out this major life lesson. Never let a toxic partner shrink your world or convince you that your passions are worthless. Your dreams belong to you. She lost everything just trying to keep a guy who never truly valued her, so her ex dumps her the exact week she loses her scholarship. Just brutal. Lucien sits there unreadable. Then he sets his glass down and drops the absolute biggest mic drop of the century. He tells her she is going to that engagement party next Saturday, and he is going as her date. Why? Because Grayson is going to see exactly what he threw away and spend his entire life crying about it. Elena is completely panicking, asking why this billionaire even cares. Lucien touches her cheek and says the moment he saw her crying, he recognized something in her. He says he never lets go of things that belong to him. Stick with me here, because this life lesson is everything. Sometimes the absolute greatest revenge is just showing up looking incredible and living your absolute best life. The vendetta is officially on. Look at this, guys. We are jumping right into the madness. Lucien flashes this slow, dangerous smile and whispers, "Not yet." Cut to Elena waking up on a mattress that feels like a literal cloud. Her brain is buffering, but then the trauma of yesterday hits. Her toxic ex Grayson, the pouring rain, the busted tire, and the way Lucien Moretti stared at her. She sits up, taking in the penthouse skyline views. Her soaked clothes are gone, swapped for a pure silk robe. Her phone is blowing up with 8 missed calls and 12 texts from her roommate. Elena texts back a quick lie about staying with a friend, because admitting she crashed at a mysterious billionaire's place is a tough sell. She wanders into the bathroom and gasps at the wall-to-wall marble. The life lesson here, sometimes hitting rock bottom, is just the universe, preparing to upgrade your reality. This bathroom is straight out of a 5-star spa, complete with brand new products bought just for her. Wrapped in silk, Elena follows the smell of coffee to the kitchen. Bam, there is Lucien. Dark slacks, crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking dangerously distracting. He looks up, and this wildly possessive look flashes across his face. "You are awake," he says. "Good. Sit." Guys, that is not a request. Before her brain even processes the command, she is glued to a bar stool. He slides a massive plate of bacon, eggs, and fruit in front of her. Real, high-quality food she has not seen in months. "Eat," he orders, leaving zero room for debate. "We will talk after." She takes a shaky bite, and obviously, it is flawless. Always remember, true power is shown in how someone treats you when you have absolutely nothing to give back. Everything in Lucien's orbit is pure perfection. She eats in silence while he stares at her with this heavy intensity, memorizing her face. When she finishes, he casually drops a bomb. He is having her busted car fully rebuilt. New tires, full inspection, delivered today. Elena is stunned, choking out that he cannot just do that. "I can, and I did," he fires back. Then he demands her address so he can pay off 3 months of her rent. "Give it to me willingly, or I will find it myself," he warns. Pure boss energy. She slams her coffee cup down, begging him to stop playing this twisted game. But Lucien glides around the counter like a total apex predator, leaning in dangerously close. "You are drowning, Elena," he whispers, "and I am offering you a lifeline." The lesson here? Pride is totally useless when your ship is already sinking. Just take the life raft. Elena begs for a reason. Why do this for a stranger? Lucien gets quiet. "You and I are about to find out what really drives this guy." He reveals that at 17, he watched his mother die from a treatable illness because she was too proud to ask for help. By the time he built his empire, she was gone. He looks at Elena, telling her she has that exact same stubborn pride, choosing to suffer alone. He refuses to watch another woman destroy herself. Elena whispers that she is not his mother. Lucien reaches out, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. "No," he says, "you are something else entirely. Something he never expected to find, and now he is never letting go." She knows she should run from this madness. But the real lesson? The strongest walls we build are often completely broken down by one single moment of genuine vulnerability. Instead of running, She leans into his touch like it is the only warmth she has felt in years. Lucian drops the master plan. They are crashing her toxic ex Grayson's engagement party to show him exactly what he threw away. Elena calls it crazy. Lucian hits her with that dangerous smile, saying he built an empire on calculated risks, and she is a gamble worth taking. Cue the wildest week of her life. A high-end designer rolls up to her apartment with 6 custom dresses. Somehow, he already has her exact measurements, which is a massive flex. Her phone lights up with daily texts from him, making sure she ate, dropping off her fixed car, and telling her to open a mysterious package at her door. Inside, books. The life lesson is simple. Never settle for someone who treats you like a backup option, when there is someone else ready to treat you like an absolute masterpiece. Not just any books, guys. First editions of novels she mentioned loving. Books she sold years ago just to survive. She literally stops breathing for 20 minutes. Then flowers start arriving at her coffee shop job. Massive arrangements making all her coworkers lose their minds. She tries calling to tell him to chill, but he ghosts her. Instead, he pulls the ultimate power move and shows up mid-shift. Elena looks up and nearly drops dead. Lucian is standing there in a suit worth more than the entire cafe. His sheer aura sucks the oxygen right out of the room. He calmly orders a black coffee while her manager drops a tray in terror. Elena is shaking as she pours, begging him to stop doing all of this. He plays innocent while she gestures wildly at the flowers and his ridiculous financial flex. The lesson? When someone truly listens to the things you barely say out loud, keep them close. Elena tells him it is way too much. Lucian takes the coffee, slides a crisp $100 bill across the counter, and tells her to keep the change. He leans in close, smelling dangerously expensive. Stick with me, because this gets wild. Saturday night, he whispers. Pick you up at 6. Wear the black dress with the open back. Elena is stunned, asking how he even knows about it. He locks eyes with her, dropping absolute fire. I know everything about you, Elena. What you drink, what you read, and soon, I will know every secret you are hiding. Boom. He walks out, leaving the cafe staring like a billionaire hurricane just rolled through. Her manager asks who the hell that was, and Elena lies, saying she has no idea. Cut to Thursday. Her roommate Jessica barricades the fridge, demanding the truth. Always remember, the most powerful statements are usually delivered in the quietest whispers. Jessica is not playing games. She demands to know who the mystery man is, pointing out that normal friends do not drop custom designer dresses and priceless books. Thus. Elena sighs and hands over her phone. Jessica is shook reading the texts, declaring this guy is either hopelessly obsessed or a serial killer, or both. When Elena admits they met a week ago, Jessica's voice hits a supersonic pitch. She cannot believe Elena is taking a stranger to her toxic ex's engagement party. Does he know you are broke? Jessica asks. Elena admits he knows everything. He knows she is drowning, and instead of running, he is bailing her out. Jessica drops the hard truth. Powerful men do not help for free. They always want a return on investment. Elena just remembers the gentle way he touched her face. The big lesson here? Trusting someone is genuinely terrifying, especially when their kindness feels way too good to be true. She thinks about how Lucien looked at her like a rare artifact worth protecting. I do not know what he wants, Elena admits. But you and I are about to find out tonight. Saturday arrives like a thunderstorm ready to break. Elena is in full panic mode, trying to bail 7 different times. But guys, this black dress is an absolute weapon. Dangerous neckline, tailored silk, and a completely bare back. Looking in the mirror, she does not see the broke barista anymore. She sees a boss, a woman who belongs on a king's arm. Right at 6, her phone buzzes. I am downstairs. She grabs her bag, hands violently shaking. Jessica gives a low whistle, saying she looks like she could literally end a man's life tonight. That is exactly the plan, Elena replies. The life lesson we can all take away from this. Sometimes you have to dress like the absolute villain to finally take back your own power. All right, picture this, guys. You and I are jumping right into the deep end today. We always hear mafia bosses are walking red flags, But here is a simple life lesson. Sometimes the biggest red flags wear the best suits. Elena knows Lucien could totally wreck her life, but she still walks out to meet him. Lucien is chilling by a black sedan, looking like a total menace in a tailored tuxedo. He tracks her like a hawk, silent until he drops a rough, "You are stunning." She fires back, and he hits her with a smile that screams pure trouble. He helps her into the car, his hand planted firmly on her bare lower back, just pure possessive energy. Then, boom, a 20-minute ride to the Rosewood Hotel, where he just barks rapid-fire Italian on his phone the whole time. His voice on the phone is ice cold and honestly terrifying. When he hangs up, he locks onto her. He asks if she is ready, and she drops a hard no. He loves the honesty, grabs her hand, and gives her the ultimate hype speech. Here is a life lesson to remember: always keep people around who make you feel 10 feet tall. Lucien tells her straight up that her toxic ex, Grayson, is going to realize he made a catastrophic mistake today. Grayson will try to tear her down, but Lucien tightens his grip and says, "Tonight, you are with me, and nobody is going to make you feel small." Total boss move. Elena is literally speechless. They pull up to the Rosewood Hotel, and it is maximum snob territory, marble floors, and trust fund kids everywhere. Lucien keeps his hand firmly on her back as they strut right through the front doors, and let me tell you, everyone stops and stares. The whispers start instantly. People are literally gasping, asking if that is the infamous Lucien Moretti. The moment they step into the ballroom, it is pure cinematic drama. Conversations just die. Grown men in designer suits are turning ghost white and speed dialing for backup. Lucien does not care at all. He guides Elena through the mob like a king, stopping for absolutely nobody. Then, there he is. Grayson, the toxic ex. He is at the bar with his new girl, Victoria, acting like he owns the world. But the second he spots Elena, his whole untouchable vibe shatters. He goes from confused to absolutely terrified when he realizes the Mafia Don is her +1. Life lesson: guys' karma always hits hardest when you least expect it. Grayson rushes over, stammering like a total fool, until Lucien just shuts him down. He sticks out his hand with this terrifyingly pleasant smile and introduces himself. The tension is absolutely insane. Grayson is shaking as he takes Lucien's hand. He stutters that it is a surprise, and Lucien flashes a wickedly sharp smile, saying he could not ignore the invite. Enter Victoria, flashing her fake smile, trying to act superior about Elena bringing a date. Then Lucien drops the absolute nuke. He casually says, "Actually, we are engaged." Elena lets out a shocked gasp before Lucien subtly squeezes her waist to keep her quiet. Grayson looks like he just took a heavyweight punch to the gut, whining about how they only broke up 6 months ago. Lucien just hits him with the coldest glare and says, "Your loss is my extraordinary gain." A quick life lesson for everyone: never let your enemies see you sweat. Elena channels all her old retail worker energy, pastes on a flawless smile, and totally plays along with this wild mafia game. Elena locks in and confidently agrees. Victoria's fake smile cracks instantly. She tries to throw shade, bringing up how Elena just works at a coffee shop. Grayson is still staring at the mafia boss, like he has seen an actual ghost. Lucy swoops in and corrects them with surgical precision. He says she was working there, but now she is a full-time writer, and he is backing her dreams. It is a brutal flex. Lucien casually drops that his top-tier publishing contacts are fighting over her new novel. Inside, Elena is panicking, knowing she has not written a word in years, but seeing Grayson's face turn to pure ash is priceless. Life lesson here: sometimes you just have to fake it until you make it, especially to flex on a toxic ex. Grayson weakly asks if she is really publishing a book, and Elena just rolls with the lie, claiming they are in talks. She is flying totally blind, but the payback is glorious. Grayson nervously gulps, claiming he always knew she had talent, but Elena steps up and drops the hammer. She reminds him of his exact words that writing was just a fantasy for rich people who could afford to fail. Boom! Utter silence. Victoria is squirming, and Grayson flounders like a fish, making pathetic excuses about being realistic. Lucien cuts in with a voice that is quiet but absolutely lethal. saying Grayson was just being cruel. Here is a life lesson. Never let a small-minded person talk you out of your big dreams. A photographer pops up for a picture, and Victoria slaps on her fake smile, dragging Grayson into a pose. When the camera guy asks our main duo for a shot, Elena tries to back out, but Lucien is not having it. He says they would love to, smoothly reeling her in. He grabs her waist and gently tilts her chin up. This mafia boss knows exactly how to put on a show. Lucien whispers for her to smile and show that loser exactly what he gave up. She flashes a brilliant smile, the camera goes off, and Grayson looks ready to jump off a balcony. The night becomes a blur of champagne and high society chatter. Lucien is constantly touching her hand on her waist, her back, letting the room know she is with the boss. Everyone treats them like absolute royalty. Here is a quick life lesson: confidence is everything, even if you have to fake it. Elena plays her part flawlessly, smiling while completely screaming inside. By 10, she slips into the hyper-fancy marble bathroom to catch her breath. But peace never lasts, right? The door swings open, and in walks Victoria. Her flawless facade is finally cracking. She pulls out her lipstick and sneers, calling Lucien a massive upgrade from a barista gig. Elena just grips the sink, totally bracing for a fight. Elena stands her ground and asks if Victoria has a problem. Victoria glares through the mirror, salty, asking how a broke girl bagged one of the most powerful men on the East Coast. Elena fires back that maybe he just likes her for who she is. Victoria lets out an incredibly toxic laugh. She tells Elena that guys like Lucien do not fall in love, they just collect trophies. She literally calls Elena a project. Life lesson. Folks, miserable people will always try to drag you down to their level. Victoria gets right in her face, claiming Elena is way out of her league. She warns that Lucien is dangerous, and when he tosses her aside, she will regret ever leaving her little coffee shop. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. A random lady walks into the bathroom, senses the absolute killer vibes, and instantly nopes right back out of the room. Elena's hands are shaking, but she keeps her voice ice cold and asks, "Are you finished?" Victoria plays it off as friendly advice, caps her lipstick, and dramatically sweeps out, telling Elena to enjoy her fake fairy tale. Now Elena is alone, and those toxic doubts are really eating at her. When she heads back, Lucien is chatting up some heavy-hitter politician, but the second he spots Elena, he ditches the VIPs and marches straight over. He instantly knows something is off. She tries to brush it away, but his jaw clenches. He demands the truth. Here is a life lesson: never lie to someone who studies your every move. Elena breaks down, spilling what Victoria said about her being just a shiny new trophy. Her voice cracks as she admits they barely know each other, and this is crazy. But before she can spiral, Lucien's hand reaches up, gently cupping her face and forcing her to look right into his intense eyes. "Listen up. You and I are watching this drama go absolutely nuclear." Lucien looks at Elena and totally shreds Victoria, calling her a fake socialite who only speaks the language of transactions. "That's not us," he says. He admits seeing her cry in that parking lot totally rewired his brain. Now, he wants to obliterate anyone who ever hurt her. "You're mine." He drops the line like a basic law of physics. Before Elena can even process this mafia-level possessiveness, absolute chaos hits the ballroom doors. Men in dark suits swarm the venue with that terrifying energy that makes your instincts scream. Boom, the FBI just entered the chat. Here is a quick life lesson for you. Never take for granted a guy who actually notices your tears when the rest of the world is ignoring you. The agent's voice booms over the dead silent room. "We're looking for Grayson Alexander Vale." Grayson literally turns into a ghost. He starts stammering, but the agent just slaps the cuffs on him for massive fraud and money laundering. The ballroom totally loses its mind. Victoria is screaming, people are filming, and Grayson's dad is raging. Elena stands frozen like a deer in headlights until she feels Lucien lean in close. "I told you," he whispers, totally chilling. "No one hurts you," and walks away. Elena's blood runs ice cold. She looks at his smug, boss-level smirk, and suddenly the massive plot twist clicks. She whispers, "You did this." and he flawlessly owns it. Life lesson. Karma always collects its debts, especially when someone powerful decides to speed up the delivery. Elena gasps, asking how he pulled off this epic takedown. Lucian casually explains he had his hackers dig up Grayson's financial dirt to fast-forward the FBI's case. "You destroyed him?" she asks. Guys, his answer is legendary. He says yes, entirely, because Grayson made her cry and feel worthless. He had to face the ultimate vendetta for disrespecting something precious. She calls him insane, but he just flashes a wicked smirk. "Probably, but I'm your kind of insane." Talk about a mic drop. As Grayson gets dragged out in cuffs and bail like rats from a sinking ship, Lucian stands victorious. Life lesson time. When someone proves they will literally burn the whole world down just to keep you warm. You better figure out if you can handle the fire. Lucian holds Elena like his anchor in the chaos. Shaking, she says she needs space to think. He loosens his grip but drops a hardcore ultimatum. She can walk, but she gets exactly 3 days. After that, he is hunting her down forever. Her brain screams to bolt, but she leans into him. When asked why 3 days, he drops an intense truth bomb. That's the max he can survive before totally losing his mind. He touches her hair, noting that even though she thinks he's a monster, she hasn't pulled away. She still looks at him like a man, not a nightmare. "What am I supposed to do with this?" she cries. Life lesson to wrap this up. Sometimes the street grabbed D's. The people who look like absolute nightmares to the rest of the world are the only ones strong enough to protect your peace. Guys, picture this absolute chaos. Elena is standing there, completely shaken, telling this man he just blew up a guy's entire life in front of 500 people over a grudge. And Lucian? He does not care at all. He just pulls her in, chest to chest, so close she can feel his heart hammering. He straight up tells her he is a lethal guy who built an empire on violence, but for her, he wants to be better. Outside, sirens are screaming, cameras are flashing like a thunderstorm, and they agree on 3 days. 3 days, and she belongs to him. He drops a kiss on her that absolutely shatters her world. Sometimes you have to accept that from your problems just leads you right back to what you secretly wanted all along. So the real question now is whether Elena can even survive what this boss-level romance is going to cost her. She skips going home entirely, just staring blankly out the window of Lucian's black sedan. Her brain is totally glitching over the fact that her ex Grayson was just dragged away in handcuffs, while his new fiancé cried her eyes out. And get this, it has only been 1 single week since she was sobbing in a random parking lot over a blown tire. Now she is stepping into a multi-million-dollar penthouse with a ruthless mastermind. He casually pours 2 glasses of whiskey, and she downs hers in 1 burning gulp. It just goes to show you that 1 minor inconvenience can alter the entire course of your life forever. Now you and I both know she is rightfully freaking out. Elena snaps, aggressively thanking him for committing multiple, literal felonies, just for her sake. She slams that glass down so hard. It is a miracle it does not shatter into 1,000,000 pieces. She is furious he ruined a life without even asking her first. But Lucian is ice cold, guys. I crossed the street, grabbed his shirt. He tells her straight to her face that she would have said no, that she would have chosen to suffer in total silence just to spare someone else from getting hurt. He steps into her space, completely taking over the room, and softly touches her cheek. He calls her out for being too selfless. Listen, you really cannot set yourself on fire just to keep toxic people warm. Let us dive right into this absolute madness. Grayson Vale was out here stealing millions from innocent people and laundering dirty money for some seriously dangerous individuals. The FBI was definitely going to catch him eventually. But get this. Lucian literally accelerated the timeline and brought the whole empire crashing down for 1 simple reason. Grayson made Elena cry. No hesitation whatsoever. He destroyed a man because he humiliated her and tried to convince her she was worthless. Moral of the story here: never let anyone make you feel small. Elena pulls away from his touch, wrapping her arms around herself, demanding to go home, but Lucian softens. It is 2 a.m. She is in pure shock, and her apartment is way too far away. He offers the guest room, and honestly, she is just too bone-tired to fight it anymore. Lucien shows her to the guest room, which is smaller than his master suite, but still ridiculously luxurious. He hands her one of his massive t-shirts to sleep in, and just leaves. No weird moves, totally respectful, but Elena is wide awake. Staring at the ceiling, she is having a full-blown identity crisis. Who is she right now? She is suddenly the girl attending high society parties with mafia bosses, rocking designer dresses, and watching her toxic ex-boyfriend get hauled away in handcuffs. And the wildest part? She felt a sick, twisted satisfaction watching Grayson fall. Deep down, she wanted this revenge to prove him wrong. It is a harsh truth, but sometimes you have to face your dark side to realize what you actually want out of life. Morning finally rolls around, and Elena finds Lucien in the kitchen, already looking sharp in a crisp white shirt, casually sipping espresso. He looks up, and his eyes instantly track over her. She is standing there completely vulnerable in his oversized shirt, messy hair, absolutely no makeup. His expression shifts into this hungry, possessive look that would make anyone's stomach do backflips. He pours her some coffee, sliding it across the counter, and the tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Elena finally snaps the silence, demanding the raw truth. Why her? Why pick a broke barista drowning in student debt, when he could have literally any powerful woman in the city? Lucien gives her his full attention and drops the hardest line. He says everyone else just wants his money and status. But she looked at his entire empire and was completely unimpressed. She corrects him, saying she is actually terrified. And guys, this teaches us a big lesson. Authenticity is the rarest trait you can offer. You and I have got to talk about what happens next, because the plot twist hits hard. Lucien leans in and straight up admits she should be terrified. He tells her he has hurt people, ended lives, and built his entire empire on fear and violence. He drops the ultimate bombshell, confessing he is exactly the kind of monster parents warn their daughters about. But then he closes the distance between them, moving like a total predator, and tangles his hand in her hair. He says that with her, he actually wants to be something different. Something worth keeping. It is a crazy realization, but people only change when they find something truly worth changing for. He pulls her into this slow, devastating kiss. Elena knows she should run for the hills, but she kisses the mafia boss right back. Sometimes the wildest risks are the ones that finally wake you up. They finally break apart, both completely out of breath. Lucien rests his forehead against hers and gives her an ultimatum. 3 days. 3 days to decide if she can handle what he really is. Elena spends those days walking around in a total daze, trying to pretend her life is normal. But it is not working. Lucien is texting her, checking if she ate breakfast, never being too pushy. Meanwhile, her workplace is absolute chaos. Someone posted pictures from the party, and guys, she is going super viral. The kiss, Grayson, in handcuffs, it is all over the internet. On Tuesday night, her best friend, Jessica, corners her with wine and a laptop, dropping the ultimate reality check. She Googled the boyfriend. A lot of us ignore the red flags when things feel good, but the truth always comes out. Jessica looks at her and reveals that Lucien is not just a businessman. Jessica flips the laptop around, and it is just article after article of pure criminal madness. We are talking money laundering, extortion, and a whole list of rivals who mysteriously vanished into thin air. There are pictures of Lucien, looking like the ultimate gentleman criminal, standing next to politicians who look completely terrified of him. Jessica is practically losing her mind, telling Elena she is dating an actual, real-life mafia boss. She asks Elena what she even is to him, a girlfriend, a project, or just his next victim. Elena tries to defend him, saying he would never hurt her. But when Jessica asks how she could possibly know that after only a week, Elena freezes. Life lesson here, folks. Always listen to the friends who check your blind spots. Even Elena knows her words sound totally hollow when she tries to explain the unexplainable connection they have. Jessica is not backing down, warning her that men like Lucien do not fall in love with normal people. They collect them, use them up, and toss them aside. She is literally begging Elena to be smart because she does not want to identify her body in 6 months when the mobster gets bored. Fast forward to Wednesday morning, and the plot thickens. A package shows up at Elena's apartment. Inside is a professionally bound manuscript of the stories she wrote back in college. The exact same stories her toxic ex, Grayson, forced her to delete because he called them a waste of time. Lucien somehow tracked down her deleted work and printed it. He left a note saying she has a real gift and she should never let anyone convince her otherwise. Honestly, the biggest takeaway here is that the right people will always fiercely protect your spark instead of trying to blow it out. Elena sits down and reads her own manuscript for 3 hours straight. And guess what? It is actually incredible. She completely forgot she had the power to create whole worlds from scratch. Grayson had systematically destroyed her confidence, telling her to focus on a stable job and stop embarrassing herself. He killed her dreams, and she actually let him. But holding that manuscript, something snaps inside her. All that buried anger just explodes. She grabs her phone and calls Lucien immediately. When she asks how he found her deleted files, he just casually mentions he has very thorough people. She calls it creepy, and he just laughs, totally owning it. But the real emotional gut punch hits when Elena admits she forgot she could actually be good at something. Never let a bitter person talk you out of your talent, because your potential is always waiting for you to reclaim it. Elena tells him she is furious that she forgot her own worth, and even madder that a mafia boss had to be the one to remind her. Lucien loves it. He tells her anger is a highly useful tool and asks what she is going to do with it. Elena wants to know exactly what happens if she says yes to his insane world. He lays it out like a true kingpin. She moves into his penthouse, quits her miserable job, and writes while he protects her. She calls it a transaction, but he drops a heavy truth bomb. Everything in life is a transaction. It just depends on what you are trading. He is offering absolute safety and freedom, and in return, he just wants her. Elena looks around her depressing, crumbling apartment, smelling her neighbors cooking through the vents. She is so completely exhausted from just surviving. Sometimes, you have to burn your old life down to finally start living. Fast forward, and Elena pulls the ultimate power move. She calls him up and demands his real address, not the fancy penthouse, but the actual fortress where he lives. She drives an hour out of the city and pulls up to this massive, terrifying Italian estate with stone walls and serious security. The guards do not even blink. They already know exactly who she is. When she rolls up the long driveway, Lucien is waiting on the front steps. He is rocking jeans and a dark sweater, looking super casual, but somehow even more dangerously attractive. She freezes up for a second, totally unsure of herself, and he just smiles and says he is surprised she actually showed up. Sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone is the only way to find out who you really are. All right, guys, stick with me. The tension is through the roof. Lucien bets she will run, but Elena claps back that she still might. He flashes that dangerous smirk and invites her in. His mansion is insane, dripping in priceless art and pure mafia wealth. But the wild part is how personal it feels inside. Worn leather chairs, messy book stacks, family photos. He leads her to his massive study and then click. He deadbolts the door. Elena's heart spikes. He looks dead at her and says, "What I tell you never leaves this room." He swipes aside a painting, cracks a wall safe, and shoves a thick folder into her hands. Look, sometimes the truth is exactly what you ask for, but you are never really ready for the weight of it. She opens that file, hands literally shaking. You and I are going to unpack this madness together, because this plot twist is straight fire. Picture Elena popping open this massive folder. Inside, it is a literal stalker's dream board. We are talking bank statements, credit card bills, and high-definition photos of her daily coffee runs from 6 whole months ago. Way before their little meet-cute. She realizes this guy Lucien was tracking her before they even locked eyes. Why? Because her trash ex, Grayson, was laundering dirty mafia money, and Lucien thought she was the key. Lesson here, guys. Sometimes the people who seem to hold all the answers are the ones hiding the biggest secrets. She is absolutely shattered, realizing her entire romance was a calculated setup to ruin her ex. The betrayal is off the charts. Elena is backing away from this dude like he is literally radioactive, and honestly, can you blame her? She is screaming at him, throwing this highly classified folder across the shiny hardwood floor, papers flying everywhere like confetti at a disaster party. She is putting the pieces together: the free rent, the fancy car, the convenient career help. All of it was a meticulously designed trap just to make her dependent on him. She is crying, feeling like an absolute clown for thinking it was fate. But here is the crazy part, guys. Lucian gets this intense look and swears that while she started as a target, the second he actually met her, the mission went out the window. The lesson for today? Sometimes the biggest lie you tell is to yourself, and Lucian played himself. How do you even come back from that, right? Elena is trying so hard not to break down, telling him he's been playing her from day one, probably laughing at the broke, desperate girl. But Lucian completely cuts her off, his voice dead serious, saying he never laughed at her. Not even once. Then he drops the ultimate stalker confession. He says he started looking into her because of Grayson, but kept looking because he became completely obsessed. He read her old blogs, talked to her professors, the whole 9 yards. Why? Because he was mind-blown that someone who went through so much trauma could still be so kind and hopeful. Real talk, the life lesson here is that genuine kindness is a magnetic force. It entirely derailed a cold-hearted operative's mission. Now Lucian is just laying all his cards on the table. He admits to manipulating every single detail of her life to get close to her. And yeah, he totally set up her ex Grayson's arrest as payback. But then he hits her with the heaviest line ever. He looks super vulnerable and just says he loves her. He knows it sounds completely unhinged, and she has zero reason to trust him, but he is ready to spend his whole life proving it. Elena is standing there, wanting to just run out the door, but something stops her. Stick with me here, because this is where it gets crazy. Instead of running, she demands to see the rest of the files. If he was really investigating her, there has to be more. Lucian hesitates, but she is not backing down. He opens the safe and pulls out a massive folder. Guys, this second folder is pure nightmare fuel. Elena starts flipping through it and realizes it is full of interrogation reports. But not of her, of literally everyone she knows. Her barista manager, her roommate, even her estranged mother, who she has not spoken to in 5 long years. The absolute worst part? Sitting right in the middle is a full-blown psychological profile drawn up by an expert. It lists her every trauma and exactly how to exploit it. It literally says she responds well to the rescue dynamic because of her abandonment issues, meaning she would easily fall for a powerful guy playing the hero. The lesson here is terrifying but true. Our deepest unhealed wounds are exactly where we are most vulnerable to being controlled by the wrong people. Elena is reading the psychoanalysis playbook, and she is absolutely losing her mind. She realizes Lucian basically treated her like a video game boss, using a literal cheat code manual to win her over. She yells at him, saying he mapped out her deepest insecurities just to make her fall in love. And then he executed the plan flawlessly. Every romantic date, every gift, the perfectly timed emotional support, it was all a tactical strike on her low self-esteem. Lucian is clenching his fists, desperately trying to defend himself. He admits the initial approach was totally calculated, but he swears that everything after that first night was real. He gave her those books because he actually believed in her dreams. A quick life lesson. Manipulation always poisons the well. Elena's voice is completely breaking at this point. She asks the ultimate question: how can she ever trust a single word he says when he just proved he is capable of such high-level psychological warfare? There is a heavy, suffocating silence in the room. Lucian looks completely wrecked, but drops this insane line, saying he would burn the entire world to ashes before he lets anyone hurt her, including himself. He tells her she can hate him, she can leave, but his love is the only truth left. Elena lets out this crazy, hysterical laugh, because the irony is wild. He is asking her to trust her own stalker. She turns her back to walk right out the front door, fully done with this absolute circus. Lucien calls out her name, but she does not even bother looking back at him. But then Lucien drops a bomb that stops her dead in her tracks. He won't follow her if she leaves, but she needs to know the real reason Grayson is in trouble. You and I are going to look at this together and realize how deep this goes. 3 months ago, her ex did not just scam regular investors, he stole serious cash from the Calabre Mafia family. The mob does not forgive and forget. Elena is freezing up, asking what that has to do with her. Since she dated the guy for 3 years, the Mafia assumes she knows where the millions are buried. Lucien looks her dead in the eye and tells her they will kidnap her, torture her for answers, and take her out permanently. The big lesson here? The company you keep leaves a permanent mark on your life. His stalking was actually protection. Now we are at the ultimate crossroads, and the tension is literally suffocating. Lucien tells her point blank that if she walks out, his protection detail ends, because he cannot save someone who refuses to let him. Elena is vibrating with pure anger, realizing her only 2 options are staying with a master manipulator or getting unalived by a ruthless mafia cartel. Lucien is not even sugarcoating it. He admits he is a terrible choice, but he is the only choice that keeps a pulse in her veins. She calls him exactly what he is, but her mind is racing. She knows he is absolutely right. She has 0 resources to fight off organized crime, but choosing to stay means accepting a fake relationship. Always remember, guys, sometimes survival means making a deal with the devil you know. Guys, look at this absolute power move. Elena just realized she isn't his partner. She's his shiny new project, exactly like Victoria warned her. She looks this dangerous mafia boss dead in the eyes and whispers that she absolutely hates him. And she drops the hardest truth bomb. She is only staying because the outside world will literally kill her. It's pure survival, not romance. Then she lays down the law. She demands her own room, full access to his massive bank accounts to see his real power, a list of everyone who stalked her, and total isolation. Lucien's jaw is clenched, so tight it might snap, but he actually agrees. Honestly, you and I could learn a simple life lesson here. When your back is pushed completely against a wall, sometimes setting ironclad boundaries is your absolute best armor against total destruction. Elena isn't done crushing this dude's soul yet. She threatens to straight up destroy him if he ever tries to pull the puppet strings again, even if it takes her down with him. And the ultimate mic drop? She tells him to never, ever say he loves her again, because those words are absolute garbage, coming from a guy who used a literal psychological playbook to exploit her deepest traumas. She walks away, feeling like she just traded one prison for a much fancier one. Behind her, total chaos. Lucien completely loses his cool and shatters something huge into 1,000,000 pieces. Our girl locks herself in the furthest bedroom she can find and finally breaks down. Life lesson for you guys. Never let someone's sweet words blind you to their toxic actions, because true love doesn't need a cheat sheet to win your heart. She isn't crying over her trash ex-Grayson, guys. She's mourning the delusion that this terrifying mafia don actually saw something special in her. For 3 whole days, she goes full ghost mode in that room. No food, no sleep, and 0 words for Lucien, except the coldest replies when he knocks. She wishes she had a time machine to dodge that black sedan. But on day 4, she steps out into this massive mansion, and surprise, Lucien actually keeps his word. He gives her a wide berth. Just watching her from a distance is like a guy who knows he utterly fumbled the bag. She stumbles into a jaw-dropping library that instantly steals her heart. Simple life lesson here. No matter how badly your trust gets shattered, you have to step out of the dark room, eventually, to find your footing again. Look at this setup, guys. Elena is chilling in this massive library, flipping through vintage books, trying to ignore the insane mafia drama. Suddenly, she hears footsteps. An elegant, silver-haired Italian boss lady in her 60s steps into the doorway. Her sharp eyes give off total mobster vibes, exactly like Lucian. Elena panics and apologizes, but the woman just glides in with pure, untouchable confidence. She introduces herself as Bianca Moretti, Lucian's aunt, and drops an absolute bombshell. She says, "You must be the girl who has my terrifying nephew smashing priceless vases and acting like the sky is falling." Elena is stunned that the big bad mafia boss actually talks about his feelings. But here is the life lesson for today. No matter how tough someone acts on the outside, catching real feelings will absolutely turn them into a chaotic mess. Elena insists Lucian just ran a toxic manipulation strategy on her. But Aunt Bianca raises an eyebrow like a true mafia queen and hits her with the hard facts. The ruthless Don of the underworld does not lose sleep over simple targets. He does not throw temper tantrums, and he definitely does not hand over the literal keys to his financial empire. Elena is shook. Wait, he actually sent the files. Bianca tells her to check her email, then gets deadly serious. She admits Lucian is a dangerous man who built an empire on fear and bodies. But in 34 years, he has never loved anyone like this, and that vulnerability absolutely terrifies him. The life lesson here is simple. When a guarded person hands you the absolute power to destroy them, that level of trust speaks way louder than their dark past. Bianca lays it all out. Lucian grew up in a brutal underworld where showing emotion gets you flatlined. So when this ruthless boss finally caught feelings, he panicked. He treated his romance like a military operation to maintain control. Elena fires back that stalking is not love. Bianca agrees, but explains it is the only kind of love a broken guy like Lucian understands. The real question is whether he can learn to be better. Elena is struggling, saying she cannot blindly trust him. Bianca drops a massive truth bomb and a solid life lesson. Trust is not magically given. It is built brick by brick through honest choices. Then Bianca shatters the mood with a chilling reality check. The rival Calabrese mafia family is actively hunting Elena. The only reason she is currently breathing is because Lucian is standing in their way. Before leaving, Bianca tells Elena she is the only one strong enough to call the Don out on his nonsense. Later that night, Elena opens her laptop and checks that email. Guys, my jaw dropped. Lucian actually did it. He sent her the blueprint of his mafia empire. We are talking bank accounts, front companies, money laundering setups, and every single access code. He literally handed her a loaded gun, pointed straight at his own head. The email only had one intense line. It said, "You wanted to see my power. Here it is. Do what you want with it." She stares at the glowing screen, realizing the sheer weight of what he just did. And here is a heavy life lesson for you. True power is not about controlling someone else. It is having the strength to hand over your weaknesses and hoping they do not pull the trigger. One called the FBI, and his empire burns. Elena holds the nuclear launch codes to Lucian's life. One tip and his mob empire turns to dust, but there is a massive catch. If he goes down, she loses her shield against the rival mafia. And the biggest plot twist? She does not even want to destroy him. She slams the laptop shut. Despite his insane stalking, she is hopelessly in love with the guy who saved her in a rainy parking lot. His methods were absolutely unhinged, but his protection was real. She storms out and marches straight into his study. The big bad Don looks like a total wreck, surrounded by papers and running on zero sleep. Sometimes the greatest life his shirt. Sometimes the greatest life realizing that loving someone does not mean ignoring their toxic mistakes. It means choosing to hold them accountable. She leans against the door, stares right into his exhausted eyes, and tells him straight up, "I could destroy you right now." She reminds him that one phone call would burn his life to the ground. Lucian just nods. He sets down his paperwork and gives her his undivided attention. He explains that she wanted to see his power, and the only way to prove his trust was to hand her the trigger. Elena calls him insane. A slight smirk crosses his face as he asks if she is going to use it. The tension is absolutely electric. Elena steps closer and says she is still deciding if he is worth the risk. Then she hits him with the ultimate question. When did she stop being a target and become real to him? Lucian goes dead silent. When he speaks, his voice is shattered. He says it was the parking lot. She was bleeding in the rain, expecting cruelty instead of help. Here is a vital life lesson. The moment you stop seeing people as objects and truly recognize their pain, your world shifts. He confesses that seeing her expect cruelty completely broke him. She reminded him of his own mother, carrying that same quiet suffering and trying to handle the world alone. He knew if he let her drive away with that broken expression, it would haunt him forever. Elena is barely breathing. Lucian admits he started the relationship as a tactical strategy, but everything after that first conversation was real. The way he obsessed over her, the way seeing her smile, made him want to destroy anyone who ever hurt her. That was not a mob strategy. That was him completely losing his mind over a girl. Elena is shaking, asking how she can know this is not just another manipulation tactic. He steps closer and tells her the brutal truth. She does not know. The life lesson here is terrifying but true. Trust is never a perfect guarantee. It is always a massive, risky gamble. He begs her to gamble on a man known for playing dirty. But he swears his only goal now is her happiness. He wants her safe, which is exactly why he gave her the weapon to ruin his life. He steps in close, laying down the final offer. Stay, write her book, and let him shield her from the rival mafia. If she still wants to leave after that, he will personally set her up with a new identity, a new city, and endless cash. Total freedom. No strings attached. When Elena asks why he would ever do something so selfless, Lucian gently cups her face and delivers the ultimate romantic knockout punch. Because he loves her. And the life lesson here is beautiful. Real love is not about trapping someone in your world. It is about wanting them to be truly happy, even if they walk away forever. Looking into his eyes, Elena finally sees the undeniable truth. Maybe she is just too far gone to spot the manipulation. But Elena is completely exhausted from running and pretending she does not feel that same terrifying obsession. So she makes her play. She tells him if she stays, the rules change. No more mob secrets or treating her like a chess piece. And the biggest plot twist? She demands he teach her to fight and shoot so she can survive his world. Lucian's eyes go dark with total approval. He agrees to train her and promises not to censor her writing. Taking a massive breath, Elena finally caves. She warns him she still does not trust him, but she is staying. Lucian looks incredibly relieved. You and I know this is a dangerous game, but the final life lesson is this. Sometimes you have to step straight into the fire to take control of your destiny. She tells him not to thank her, just do not make her regret it. Hold up, we just skipped to a crazy plot twist. He pulls her in for a slow, deep kiss, and against all logic, she completely kisses him back. For the next 2 weeks, they fall into this insanely cozy routine. This mafia boss is literally down in the firing range, pressing against her back, teaching her how to shoot and break a grown man's grip. At night, they spill their darkest childhood traumas in the library. She even starts writing a novel about falling for a literal monster, and Lucian reads every single page without judging. It is way too perfect, guys, and we all know what that means in this genre. Here is a very real life lesson. When the storm completely stops and everything suddenly feels a little too flawless, that is exactly when you need to check your blind spots. Because the universe is probably loading a bazooka. Bam! Tuesday morning hits and the universe drops that bazooka. Elena is just chilling in the library when Lucian kicks the door open, looking like he has seen a ghost. The rival Calabrese mafia family tracked her down, and they have barely 30 minutes to bail. She drops her laptop in pure panic. Before they can even reach the front door, the entire house goes absolutely sideways. The foyer windows explode into a million deadly pieces. Lucian tackles her to the floor, shielding her with his massive body while heavy gunfire rips through the walls. His elite security team spawns out of nowhere and starts returning fire like total pros. The noise is absolute madness. Let this be a simple life lesson. Your comfort zone is never permanent. So always stay ready to adapt the second your reality shatters into tiny little pieces. Elena is completely losing her mind, pressing her hands over her ears because this is not a movie anymore. Real bullets are flying, and people are dropping. Lucien drags her up and basically carries her to the kitchen, shoving a gigantic cabinet in front of the door. He points to the pantry, shouting about a secret tunnel to the garage. But before they can blink, the cabinet is blown to shreds. 3 heavily armed hitmen storm in. Guys, Lucien goes full beast mode. He blasts the first guy into next week, takes a grazing bullet to his own shoulder without even flinching, and literally snaps the second guy's neck with his bare hands. It is brutal. Here is a solid life lesson. Pressure reveals exactly who we really are, and when survival is on the line, you find out instantly who is willing to take a bullet for you. The third goon grabs Elena, but our girl actually remembers her training. She stomps his foot, elbows his chest, and twists away like a boss. But the guy is just too huge. He clocks her right in the head, and she hits the floor hard. Through her blurry vision, she sees Lucien absolutely snap, charging the guy with pure murder in his eyes. But boom, a fourth hitman steps out of the shadows and presses a gun right to Lucien's skull. The goon chokes Elena out while the new boss introduces himself. Turns out, the Calabrese family thinks Elena knows where her deadbeat ex, Grayson, hid a mountain of stolen money. The life lesson here is harsh but true. You can do the work and prepare for every single fight, but you still have to watch out for the unseen threats lurking quietly in your blind spots. The villain just smirks and basically hints she is disposable once they get the cash. Lucien is literally staring down the barrel of a gun, roaring that she is completely innocent and knows nothing about the cash. But the mobster does not care at all. As they drag a kicking and screaming Elena away, she locks eyes with Lucien across the blood-soaked kitchen. For the first time ever, this icy mafia don looks entirely desperate. He screams out that he loves her, begging her to remember it, no matter what happens. Then, boom, lights out. She wakes up zip-tied to a metal chair in a creepy, blood-stained basement. You and I can take away a deeply meaningful life lesson from this dark moment. The true value of love isn't proven when everything is safe and perfect. It is proven in the exact moment you have absolutely everything to lose. Picture this. Our girl Elena wakes up, and boom, 4 absolute units are surrounding her in this sketchy basement. The main goon pulls up a chair backward, like he is the main character, and starts cleaning his nails with a massive knife. He demands to know where her ex, Grayson, hid their money. Elena is terrified, crying that they broke up before the feds busted him, and she knows literally nothing. But this guy is not having it. Flash! The blade slices her cheek right open from ear to mouth. She screams in pure agony. He calmly tells her the next cut goes deeper if she keeps capping. Life lesson right here: never turn a blind eye to your partner's red flags, or you end up paying their debts in blood. She is sobbing, swearing she is telling the truth. But they just do not care. This guy punches her so hard, her chair flips and her head bounces off the concrete, stars everywhere. He laughs, saying they have all the time in the world to break her. As he raises the knife again, Elena braces for the worst, thinking of Lucien and his promise to protect her. Then, plot twist of the century. The basement door literally explodes off its hinges. Lucien steps through the smoke, covered in blood, wielding pistols like an absolute demon. He tells them to drop it, his voice completely freezing the room. The goons try to draw, but they are completely outclassed. Lucien is moving like a glitch in the Matrix. 2 guys drop instantly before they even aim. He takes out the third with a stolen knife. Sometimes, the universe sends you a monster, exactly when you need one. The last guy, the one who sliced Elena, tries to grab her as a human shield. Huge mistake. Lucien clears the room in 3 steps, grabs his arm, and snaps it so hard the bone literally cracks out loud. The goon is screaming while Lucien presses a gun right between his eyes, furiously asking for one good reason not to pull the trigger. But here is the wild part. Elena begs him to stop. She tells him that if he shoots, he proves everyone right that he is just a mindless monster. She knows he is dangerous, but he is her monster, and she is asking for absolute mercy. And guess what? The ruthless mafia boss actually listens to her and lowers his weapon. It just goes to show, true power is knowing exactly when to hold your fire, even when you really want revenge. Lucian pins the survivor by the throat against the wall and delivers a bone-chilling message for the rival family. He claims Elena is under his personal protection, and if they ever breathe in her direction again, he will burn their entire empire to the ground. The guy nods frantically, and the second Lucian drops him, he sprints away like an absolute coward. Lucian finally rushes to Elena, his hands completely shaking as he cuts her loose. He is wrecked with guilt over her injured face, but she just holds his hand. She tells him that choosing her over his violent instincts is what truly matters. She begs to go home, and he carries her out like she weighs absolutely nothing. The lesson here is simple: real love is the only thing that can truly calm a raging storm. Let us unpack this together, because the character development here is insane. They drive back in total silence, with Lucian holding on to her like she is his literal lifeline. At the estate, an underworld doctor gives her 12 heavy stitches across her face. It will definitely leave a gnarly scar. But as Elena looks in the mirror, she realizes the weak girl from last month is totally gone. She survived a mafia torture room, looked a monster in the eye, and demanded mercy. She finally belongs in this dark world. Lucian walks in looking wrecked, blaming himself for putting her in danger, but Elena just spins around and tells him to shut that down. Sometimes surviving your worst nightmare is exactly what you need to finally wake up and take control of your own life. Guys, listen up, because the tension here is absolutely unhinged. Elena is literally touching the dried blood on our mafia boss's forehead. She is laying it down, blaming Grayson and the Calabrese mob for this whole mess. But look at our boy Lucian. He is dropping the ultimate toxic but loyal bombshell, voice cracking and everything. He says he would have burned down the entire world to get her back. Pure absolute cinema. And the crazy part? Elena kisses him right there. She admits that when a gun was to his head, she felt the exact same way. The plot twist? She finally drops the love word. Life lesson here, guys. Sometimes the people who look like walking red flags are the only ones willing to go to war for you. Bro, the confession literally hangs in the air before Lucian goes all in, kissing her like a man starving for his last meal. This is the peak vendetta romance we came for. Elena is having her massive wake-up call. She realizes she is fully in love with a literal monster, a gorgeous, lethal mobster who literally stalked and manipulated her. But somehow, he is the only dude she trusts to keep her breathing. They are stumbling to the bedroom, covered in actual blood, completely high on adrenaline. You can hear police sirens screaming in the background. The Calabrese family is out for blood, but tonight, Elena does not care. Lesson of the day: when the whole world is trying to take you out, finding that one person to fight back to back with is everything. Let's unpack this, guys, because this is where the mafia war gets insanely dark. We are talking predator and prey, teaming up for maximum destruction. For 3 agonizing weeks, they are living like stray dogs, jumping between sketchy safe houses every 48 hours, while Jushin's top hitters are dropping dead in the streets. Elena is trying to act normal, but she is flinching at every car door. Meanwhile, our mafia boss is transforming into a literal ice-cold demon. He is pulling 18-hour shifts, coordinating brutal counterstrikes while hollowing out his own soul. He is not eating, he is not sleeping, just pure vengeance. Look, the real-life lesson here is brutal. Vengeance does not just hurt your enemies, it totally consumes your own humanity in the process. Boom! Day 19 hits, and Lucian drops a file on the table with a look that screams pure murder. They are hiding in a bulletproof penthouse on the 16th floor, and he drops a massive plot twist. He found him. Marco Calabrese, the head of the snake who ordered the kidnapping. The dude is hiding in a fortified upstate compound with 20 armed guards. But Lucian is going in. He is absolutely done, letting Elena live in constant fear. He tells her straight up that this ends tonight, but here is the wildest part. He actually gives her a choice. She can stay locked in this fortress, or roll with him into the absolute meat grinder. Take note, guys. True loyalty means giving someone the hard truth and letting them choose their own fate, no matter how scary it gets. He looks her dead in the eyes and says if he leaves her here, she will just think he is dead. Suddenly, all of Elena's trauma from that basement, the zip ties, the knife, watching Lucian flat out delete 4 dudes to save her, comes rushing back. But instead of breaking, she completely levels up. She slams her laptop shut and says she is coming with him. Absolute queen behavior. She tells him he cannot protect her from his mafia underworld anymore. If they go to war, they go together. Lucian is practically shaken to his core, burying his face in her hair, whispering he does not deserve her. The life lesson here hits deep. Loving someone means you never let them walk into the fire alone. You gear up and step right into the flames right beside them. Stick with me, because this assault sequence is absolute madness. The compound is a literal fortress. High concrete walls, sniper towers, goons pacing with heavy artillery. Lucian rolls up with 12 elite operators. We are talking ghost squad types who delete problems without blinking. And our girl Elena, she is strapped. Bulletproof vest, gripping a piece Lucian trained her on for 2 hours. His instructions were ice cold. If anybody gets close, drop them. Center mass. No hesitation. Now she is pinned behind an SUV 100 yards out while Lucian is on the radio calling the shots. They are prepping a 3-point simultaneous breach to catch Marco. The life lesson here is simple. Preparation is everything. If you walk blind into a war zone, you are just planning to fail. You and I are going to hold our breath for this one. Lucian checks his watch. 2 minutes to go. He stares at Elena with this crazy mix of desperation and killer instinct. He gives her the ultimate fail-safe. Stay in the truck, and if they are not back in 30 minutes, grab the burner phone and vanish. He kisses her like the world is literally ending, and ghosts into the darkness with his hit squad. The choreography here is insane, a total ballet of violence. Suddenly, the first explosion lights up the night sky. Heavy gunfire rips through the air, dudes screaming in Italian, complete chaos unfolding. Elena is covering her ears, trying not to have a panic attack. The life lesson here is real. The hardest part of any battle is usually the painful waiting. Okay, pause. Elena is having massive second thoughts, regretting her entire life right now. Suddenly, a tactical operator materializes at her window. She nearly unloads the clip, but wait, it is Dante, Lucian's right-hand man. He yanks the door open and drops the biggest plot twist of the series. Marco Calibres is refusing to talk to Lucian. He demands Elena. He says if she walks into the compound totally unarmed, the bloodshed stops. But here is the kicker. Lucian is currently pinned down taking heavy fire, and Marco is holding Grayson as a hostage. Yes, her toxic ex-boyfriend Grayson. Marco is offering a straight-up trade, Elena for Grayson. The life lesson? Your past will absolutely come back to haunt you at the worst possible second, usually when you are dodging actual bullets. This is where the tension breaks the scale. Dante hits her with the cold truth. Lucian has zero clue about this deal because he is busy keeping his team alive. If anyone else dies tonight, Lucian will never forgive himself. Elena stares at the literal war zone, realizing her mafia king is fighting for his life. She makes the ultimate boss move. She looks Dante dead in the eye and tells him to take her inside. Boom. Next scene, she walks into Marco's office. It looks normal, but right there in the middle, Grayson, looking completely wrecked and zip-tied to a chair. Marco is chilling, smoking a cigar like he owns the universe, telling her to take a seat. The life lesson here? Sometimes you must walk straight into the dragon's den to save your kingdom. Things get incredibly tense when we meet Marco, the rival boss who drops a massive truth bomb while puffing on a cigar. He tells Elena that her new fiancé started this whole bloody war. And why? Because her scummy ex, Grayson, actually stole $20 million from Marco. Grayson starts sweating, swearing he just invested it, and the market tanked. But Marco shuts him down instantly, revealing that Grayson lost all that mafia cash gambling on cryptocurrency. Then the idiot tried to cover his tracks with fake return documents. Elena is completely frozen, realizing her ex is a massive fraud. Here is a free life lesson. Never mix fake spreadsheets with real gangsters, because the math will always catch up to you in the absolute worst way possible. Grayson is totally busted. Marco is not done playing games. He smiles this creepy smile and tells Grayson he is completely worthless. But Elena? Marco thinks she knows where the hidden offshore accounts are. She denies it, but Marco hits her with an impossible ultimatum. He wants her to convince Lucian to call off the Mafia war and surrender, while he keeps Grayson as a hostage. If she says no, more people die, and Lucian could lose everything. Elena looks over at Grayson. This is the exact same loser who used to destroy her self-worth, mock her dreams, and embarrass her in public. Now his pathetic life is literally in her hands. It proves you should always treat people with absolute respect, because one day the person you walked all over might be the only one who can save you from a shallow grave. Grayson is literally begging on his knees. He admits he was terrible to her, but pleads with her not to let them kill. Elena flashes back to the moment Lucian first saved her. Every crazy choice has led to this exact showdown. What does she do? She flips the script entirely. She looks Marco dead in the eyes and drops a massive counteroffer. Grayson will expose every hidden account, so Marco gets his $20 million back. In exchange, Marco lets Grayson walk and permanently ends the war with Lucian. Marco smirks and asks why he should forgive a massive theft. Elena does not even blink. She tells him it is the only way he gets to keep his empire before Lucian burns it to the absolute ground. Knowing your actual worth and using it as a weapon is the ultimate power move. Listen up, guys, because Elena is absolutely built different. She stares Marco down, this ruthless mafia boss, and drops a threat that is pure ice. Take the deal, let us go, or Lucian will scorch the earth. He wanted to just end you. He'll bankrupt your businesses and make you watch your empire turn to ash first. Marco just sits there, sizing her up with these cold snake eyes. He's low-key impressed. He laughs, tells her she's got a spine of steel, and finally gets why the most dangerous man in the city is so obsessed with her. Marco actually caves. He walks over to his hidden safe, grabs a laptop, and agrees to her terms. Seriously, sometimes in life, you just have to stand your ground, because absolute confidence is the ultimate shield against any bully. Marco slaps the laptop down and cuts the zip ties, warning Grayson he better not be lying. Grayson is sweating bullets. His hands shake violently as he furiously types. For 20 straight minutes, Elena watches this coward spill all the tea, giving up every password and shady shell corporation. He hands over a literal treasure map to Marco's stolen cash. Marco's goons frantically make calls, verifying every single digit in real time. When it finally checks out, Marco gives a slow, creepy nod. He admits the X isn't useless and confirms the cash is recoverable. The deal is officially locked in. Marco barks rapid Italian into his phone, calling off his hit squad. It just goes to show, never trust a traitor. But if you back a coward into a corner, they always sing to save their own skin. Marco gives a chilling warning. Mercy is a debt he always collects. Dante busts in to confirm the coast is clear. Elena drags her useless ex outside, but suddenly Lucian appears. Guys, he looks like the literal Grim Reaper, covered in blood and radiating pure fury. He snaps at her for leaving the car, but Elena doesn't flinch. She calmly tells him she ended the war and saved Grayson's life. Lucian is mind-blown. He can't fathom why she'd risk everything for that scumbag. She stares right into the eyes of this mafia boss and drops a massive truth bomb. She chose mercy. It's a huge life lesson, honestly. Having the absolute power to completely destroy someone, but actively choosing to walk away instead, is exactly what separates real, decent humans from the monsters. Elena tells him she chose mercy even for a guy who didn't deserve it. Lucian just stares, then gives Grayson 10 seconds to vanish before he ends him. The coward bolts instantly. Lucian turns to Elena, frantic, yelling that she could have been killed. But she fires right back. She reminds him they are partners now. She's done hiding while he fights her battles. Lucian reaches out, brushing her cheek, whispering that he thought he'd lost her. You and I both know how deep that hits. She grabs hand, making it crystal clear. She isn't some fragile doll to be locked away. Here is the real lesson, guys. True love is street. True love means stepping out of your safe zone and standing shoulder to shoulder with your partner through the worst storms, instead of just watching safely from the sidelines. She vows to stand beside him through the madness. Lucien hugs her like she's Saz, his absolute lifeline. Around them, the crew packs up. 3 dead, 7 injured, a brutal price for her safety she won't ever forget. Fast forward 6 months. Guys, Elena is in a Manhattan bookstore, holding her published novel, Monsters and the Women Who Love Them. What an epic flex. The dedication is purely for Lucien, thanking him for proving that love means accepting dark flaws. The book blew up into a massive bestseller. And get this, the terrifying mafia boss is standing right beside her in a sharp tuxedo, absolutely hating the crowd but doing it anyway. It just proves that when you genuinely value someone, you'll gladly endure the things you completely despise just to watch them chase their dreams. This mafia boss despises the flashing cameras, but he stays glued to her side. He asks how it feels to live her dream. Elena admits she's terrified. She's panicking that readers will think she's glorifying toxic crime. Lucien shuts that doubt down instantly, telling her she wrote the raw truth about making impossible choices. Over the last 6 months, this guy totally restructured his dark empire. He dropped the violent rackets and pivoted hard into legit real estate, so his lifestyle wouldn't put her in danger. He even launched a charité named after his late mother to help struggling women. It's wild how people can evolve. Life lesson time, guys. It is never too late to pivot your path and use your resources to build something positive instead of tearing the world down. The charity provides scholarships for girls who wouldn't stand a chance. It's their ultimate shot at redemption. Suddenly, across the bookstore, Elena spots a ghost from her past. It's Grayson. Her snake of an ex is holding her book, looking totally beaten down by the fraud conviction that ruined his life. They lock eyes. Grayson just awkwardly raises the book to acknowledge her, then turns and walks out without a word. Lucien notices the tension and asks if she's all right. She smiles and says she's okay. Guys, for the first time ever, she actually means it. She's living proof that letting go of toxic history is true freedom. You don't owe your past a conversation. Sometimes, the absolute best closure is simply leaving the dead weight behind and focusing on your own beautiful future. The signing drags on for 3 grueling hours. Elena dodges nosy questions about what inspired her, never mentioning that the terrifying monster from her novel is sitting 10 feet away, completely bored and checking his phone, or that the violence in her book was heavily watered down compared to the insane reality Lonnie survived. When it's over, Lucien drives them back, not to some guarded mobster penthouse, but to a cozy brownstone in Brooklyn. They actually built a normal life. Elena kicks off her heels and collapses onto the couch, begging him never to make her do publicity again. It's a great reminder to appreciate your safe haven. No matter how chaotic your public life gets, having a quiet, comfortable sanctuary to return to with the person you love is the ultimate prize. Lucien mentions her upcoming book tour, and she groans. He chuckles, massaging her feet. He hypes her up, saying, "The crowd loved her, because she never hid that loving a complicated man takes strength." Elena just stares at him. This dangerous mafia boss who wiped out empires for her safety is now her ultimate home. Then, she drops the mother of all plot twists. She looks him dead in the eye and whispers that she's pregnant. Guys, the silence is deafening. Lucien completely freezes. His brain short-circuits as his expression cycles through pure shock, absolute terror, and finally, overwhelming joy. Here's the big takeaway for you and me. Life's very best plot twists happen the moment you finally let your defensive guard down and allow yourself to build a real, beautiful future. Guys, picture this. The absolute mafia don Lucien, completely losing his mind. His voice is literally cracking. Elena just dropped the massive bomb, 3 positive tests. She is freaking out, talking about how dangerous his underworld is for a kid. But boom. He cuts her off with a kiss, and this terrifying mobster actually has tears in his eyes. He calls it perfect. And honestly, isn't that the biggest lesson here? Nothing in life is ever flawless, but when it is yours, you fight for it. Fast forward 2 whole years. Elena is chilling in her library, working on her writing, while little Isabella Grace Moretti Bella for short is snoozing right next to her. This kid already has her dad's dark hair, her mom's eyes, and way too much stubborn attitude for a tiny baby. Talk about a massive plot twist. The ruthless crime boss became a total softie the second Bella was born. We are talking late-night diapers and singing Italian lullabies. But do not get it twisted. His mafia paranoia went wild. Their house has insane security now. Guards everywhere, cameras on every corner. Nobody gets within 50 feet of his kid. Elena finally understands why, and here is a simple truth we all must learn. Real love makes you vulnerable, but it gives you the strength to protect what matters at any cost. With her baby sleeping 3 feet away, Elena is finishing her second novel. It focuses on redemption and building something beautiful from shattered pieces. As little Bella softly stirs, Elena knows this is her true masterpiece. Elena scoops up her daughter and sits by the window watching the busy Brooklyn streets. She thinks back to who she used to be. Remember when she was dead broke, counting pennies and letting toxic guys make her feel utterly worthless. That weak version of her is entirely gone now. And here is a lesson you can take straight to the bank. You can walk through absolute darkness, get totally scarred up, and still choose to find the light. She is a true boss now. She literally fell in love with a mafia monster and taught him to be a real man. Right on cue, Lucian walks through the door. He is still rocking his sharp mob suit, but the second he looks at his family, his cold eyes completely melt. He quietly asks how his girls are doing, and Elena just smiles. They are finally safe, and everything is good. Picture this. You and I are watching the ultimate boss power move. Lucian strolls in, kisses the family, and casually drops a nuke. He tells Elena that Marco, the big rival Don, just kicked the bucket. Cops call it a totally natural heart attack. Yeah, right. A heart attack made of pure poison, probably. Lucian is ice cold, explaining how Marco's empire is about to explode into a massive bloodbath, but they are absolutely untouchable. Why? Because this mastermind rigged the game years ago. He bought out the competition so whoever takes the throne owes him their life. Elena does not even blink. She totally embraces this dark underworld currency without a single moral freakout. If there is a simple lesson here, it is that you always need to plan 5 steps ahead of your enemies to survive. Elena knows her man is a walking red flag who deletes enemies with zero hesitation, and she is totally here for it. She looks at this ruthless mafia enforcer and literally thanks him for the dirty work. One minute they are having this intense mobster bonding moment, and the next, the baby starts screaming. Suddenly, this terrifying underworld boss is on full diaper duty. Talk about a massive plot twist. Later that night, the vibe shifts right back to pure cinematic drama. Elena finds her dark and broody husband staring out the window at the city skyline. She asks what is on his mind, and he admits he never thought he would survive long enough to have actual peace. The simple lesson here is that sometimes the absolute most dangerous people in the world are just fighting to protect a quiet place to call home. Lucian admits he used to miss the pure, simple chaos of the gangster life, knowing exactly who he was going to destroy next. But looking at his family, he is completely locked in now. This guy is a total goner. Elena straight up calls him a monster to his face, but says she loves him anyway. Pure beauty and the beast energy right there. They share this crazy intense moment, wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than a brand new car. As they chill, Elena flashes back to how this entire insane saga started. A busted tire in a sketchy parking lot. One random choice to accept a ride from a literal mobster, and her whole destiny flipped upside down. It is wild to think about. The biggest life lesson you can pull from this is that one tiny, seemingly insignificant choice can completely rewrite your entire future, for better or for absolute worst. If she just called a tow truck that night, she would still be a broke barista crying in a tiny apartment. Instead, she totally leveled up. She is a famous writer now, completely unbothered by the battle scar on her face. She treats that scar like an absolute badge of honor. Why? Why? Because she fell in love with a walking hazard symbol who would gladly delete anyone who looks at her funny. Fast forward 5 years, and she is standing on a stage, winning fancy literary awards. The crowd knows her insane lore. They think she married a quote-unquote reformed criminal. Reformed? Yeah, right. That is the biggest cap of the century. The guy is still a massive threat. The real lesson here? True strength is not about avoiding the damage. It is about taking your shattered pieces and forging them into an absolute weapon. Let's get one thing straight. Lucian still runs the underground. He has hitmen on speed dial and terrifies everyone. But he is also dropping massive bags of cash on charities, playing the ultimate Robin Hood mobster. Now he is sitting front row at this fancy award show in a tuxedo, looking like he wants to punch the walls, holding their 4-year-old mini mastermind. Elena looks at her terrifying, morally gray family and completely owns it. She steps up to the mic and drops an absolute fire speech. She tells the crowd to stop hiding their ugly truths and start showing off their battle scars. The whole room goes absolutely wild with applause. The life lesson is clear as day. Never try to fake a perfect, shiny life for the public. The realest, most broken version of your story is the one that actually holds the most power. You and I have to appreciate this wild irony. The ice-cold mafia boss is literally shedding a tear. Just a tiny bit, but Elena catches him slipping. After the show, they hit up an insanely exclusive restaurant. Their kid is out here charming waiters using giant words she did not learn from her gangster dad. Elena jokes she will be a total menace, and Lucian completely agrees. Then the vibe gets super intense. Lucian reaches across the table and gets brutally honest. He admits he never thought he was clean enough to have a normal family. And now, the scary underworld boss is actually terrified. He is paranoid. His violent past will crash through the door and destroy everything. The lesson here is brutal but true. You can try to run and build a shiny new future, but your dark past will always charge you interest. Lucian is sweating bullets over making one wrong move, but Elena locks eyes with him and says they are full partners in this chaos. No backing out. Right on cue, the kid asks what a lobster is. Lucian launches into this massively complicated breakdown, like he is giving a tactical mob briefing. Elena just soaks it all in, realizing this messy, high-stakes life is absolutely perfect for her. Cut to later that night. They are standing in their massive library, staring at a whole wall of Elena's best-selling books. Lucian turns to her and drops the ultimate respect. He is proud she survived their insane, blood-soaked journey and built a literal empire out of it. Here is your final life lesson to take away. Real loyalty is not just about surviving the absolute worst storms together. It is about sticking around to build the kingdom afterward. Look at this! Guys, we're hitting peak drama. Elena spins around and looks this absolute mafia menace dead in the eyes, the exact guy who's been her worst nightmare and ultimate savior wrapped in one suit. She demands to know if he regrets the sick manipulation, using a literal psychological profile just to play her. Wild, right? Lucien, this cold-blooded boss, actually pauses. He admits he regrets the lies, but then drops the ultimate boss move. He cups her face and swears he'll never regret fighting for her, or the empire they built on that toxic foundation. And instead of slapping him, Elena totally agrees. She's out here, turning broken pieces into a masterpiece. It drops a solid life lesson on us. You don't always get to pick how your messy story begins, but you are completely in charge of how you finish it. Bro, they seal it with a kiss, right on the spot. Fast forward a bunch of years, and Elena is sitting down with their daughter, Bella. And get this, she doesn't feed the kid some fluffy fairy tale nonsense. She spills the actual tea. She tells the raw truth about a flat tire in a sketchy parking lot, and the ridiculously dangerous mobster who swooped in. She breaks down the mind games and the wild choice of staying with a walking red flag when running was the smart move. Bella just sits there, soaking it in, rocking her mom's intense glare and her dad's calculating mafia brain. Honestly, it's a brilliant reminder for all of us. Real family isn't about having a perfect, shiny life. It's about showing up and fiercely choosing your people every single day, even when the situation is an absolute, chaotic dumpster fire. You and I know the kid is going to ask the ultimate question. Was all that mafia trauma actually worth it? Elena looks at her absolute boss of a daughter and doesn't hesitate. She says every scar and sleepless night was worth the payoff because it gave her Bella. But then Elena hits her with a reality check. She tells her she doesn't need to fall for dangerous men or build a life out of shattered glass to find happiness. Bella nods, promising to be super careful. But let's be real. Elena knows the truth. She remembers being young, stubborn, and convinced she knew best. Her kid is absolutely going to make her own wild mistakes. It's just human nature. And here's the major life lesson to take from it. You can give people all the warnings in the world, but eventually, they just have to survive their own messy story. You can shield the people you love from their chaotic journeys. You just have to love them through the madness. That's exactly how Lucien loved Elena, flawed, toxic at times, but incredibly real. Fast forward to a rainy night. Elena is looking out their massive brownstone window, flashing back to that sketchy parking lot where a stranger offered his hand and shattered her world. That single choice changed the game. She leveled up from a broke barista, counting pennies, into an absolute queen, forged in fire and blood. She completely refused to be a victim. Then, the big bad mob boss himself steps up behind her and wraps his arms around her. If there's a lesson here, guys, it's that your lowest, most desperate moment can actually become the ultimate launch pad for your great at reinvention. You just have to own it. He whispers to ask what she's thinking. And Elena actually says she's feeling lucky. Catch this insane twist. Lucien laughs and reminds her. She was literally kidnapped, tortured, and dragged into an underworld nightmare. Bro is fully self-aware of his own villain arc. But Elena turns to face the guy who ruined her life and then rebuilt it. She looks at their kid, their empire, and says she wouldn't trade a single second of it. Lucien goes soft and admits he just the lucky one for finding her against all odds. We found each other, she corrects him, totally owning her part in this ride. The life lesson is staring us right in the face, guys. Gratitude isn't about having an easy, flawless past. It's about looking at the beautiful, chaotic reality you've managed to build and realizing it's exactly where you are meant to be. The old Elena is officially wiped from the server. Her character development is absolute peak, folks. She learned the hardest lesson out there. You can always control the insane garbage life throws at you, but you completely control who you level up into. She looked a literal monster, dead in the eyes, saw something worth saving, and in the process, saved herself. Now she's out here running a foundation to give other women a second chance. She loves Lucien because she gets that real love isn't some perfect romance movie. It's looking at someone's flaws, choosing them anyway, and trusting them to hold you down. As the thunder rolls outside, they just hold each other. Remember this. True strength isn't about avoiding the dark parts of your story. It's about using the wreckage to build an absolute fortress. To wrap this insane saga up, stick with me here. Somewhere in a random sketchy parking lot, there's probably another girl crying over a busted car. Elena hopes someone pulls over to help her. But honestly, she also prays that girl has the street smarts to bolt if the guy offering a jumpstart rolls up making dark mafia promises. Let's be real, not everyone has the plot armor to survive the kind of twisted, violent romance Elena went through. Our girl was just extraordinarily stubborn and incredibly lucky. Against all odds, she made it out alive. She is thriving, she is the boss, and that is everything. Here is our final life lesson to close it out. Always trust your gut. The universe might hand you a wild second chance, but you still need the wisdom to know when to run and when to stand your ground to build your empire.
One of the most meaningful lessons from Elena Whitmore's story is that poverty can make a person feel invisible. but it should never define their value. At the beginning, Elena is counting coins in a discount grocery store, choosing cheap cereal, worrying about overdue rent, and living through the exhausting repetition of survival. Her life has become small, not because she lacks talent, but because hardship has drained her energy and hope. Grayson's cruelty hurts so deeply because he attacks the exact wounds poverty has already created. He mocks her job, her clothes, her failed dreams, and her inability to live the successful life he now displays with Victoria. This teaches Inus an important educational lesson. People who are struggling financially are often already carrying shame, and cruel words can deepen that shame in dangerous ways. Elena's poverty is not a sign that she is lazy, unintelligent, or undeserving. She is a woman who has been worn down by circumstances, emotional abuse, lost opportunities, and the daily pressure of trying to survive. Viewers should learn that financial status is not the same as personal worth. A person may be broke and still be talented, kind, intelligent, and worthy of respect. Grayson's mistake is believing money makes him superior. Lucien's first appeal to Elena is that he sees her pain and treat her as someone worth saving. However, the lesson must go deeper than rescue. Elena's value existed before Lucien arrived. It existed while she was standing in the rain with a flat tire. The educational message is clear. Never allow poverty, rejection, or someone to Chanel's cruelty to convince you that your life has no meaning. Hardship may describe your senior situation, but it must never become your identity.